There's a video game that's only 96 kilobytes in size. It has full 3D graphics, real-time music, and an entire shooter campaign, and it shouldn't exist. Its name is Krieger. But to understand how this was even possible, we have to look at a tiny obsessive subculture most people have never heard of. It's called the demo scene community. Now, it's a community where programmers and artists compete to create audio-visual experiences using as little storage space as possible, not because they have to, but because that's the challenge. Demos began, in a way, first as a small signature software crackers gave to their cracked versions of software, first beginning as plain text, but later containing animated effects and music, with later on companies like Atari creating their own demos to show off their computer features and graphical capabilities. But later on in the early 2000s, the scene really popped off in Europe, with there being small teams mostly just containing programmers, graphic designers and musicians, and events in most of the countries.
Es ist non-kommerziell, absolut. Man macht es nur zum Spaß und man investiert unglaublich viel Zeit für etwas, was eine Handvoll Menschen auf der Welt verstehen.
And with more time, the insane people in the demo scene community decided to, as a challenge, try to make demos in the tiniest disk space possible. We are talking kilobytes, and within that scene, one group stood out, Farbrausch, also sometimes known as The Product. A group of Germans that were in the scene all decided together to create demos themselves. But they weren't really noticed by anyone until December 2000, when they made a 64 kilobyte demo called FR08, The Product. Yes, this is 64 kilobytes, I am not lying. These aren't cutting-edge graphics, it's not realistic, but they're still fully 3D scenes. The single screenshot I took is larger in the file size than the entire demo. You could copy one of these demos over 60 times onto the storage of the very first Macintosh computer. Or, if you wanted to copy it on a modern computer with a 500 gigabyte storage space, you could copy it over 8 million times. The catch was that these demos needed extremely powerful hardware for their time, because instead of storing textures and models, they generated almost everything on the fly. Those little names on the objects are actually the operations applied to the basic textures. Much of this work was done in extremely low-level code, pushing hardware to its absolute limits. And as more years went on, the demos got more and more complex, with there even being ones with human models that are animated, there being music with vocals and more. They made all of these demos with their own in-house tool called Werkzeug, which is tool in German. You probably didn't need that info, but I don't care. My favorite one might be FR041, The Breeze, which was only 177 kilobytes, but this is still so beautiful. Something about the cubes just makes me entranced. But there was a small itch the team had.
Well, we want to do some step more than just doing a 64K demo. We wanted to make a game in 64K because we thought, well, that should widen the audience of people who are interested in the stuff we are doing.
But they never really thought of doing that, so they continued on, winning awards while making these demos, until there was an announcement in the scene. Breakpoint 2004, a well-known event in the demo scene that would be held from the 9th of April to the 12th of April in Germany. Now, there wasn't really a question of if Farbrausch would go, that was obvious to them, but they didn't really know what demo they could create for this event until they looked at the competition tab of the website. 96 kilobyte game. A video game in only 96 kilobytes? Now, there are games in that size that exist. The original Super Mario Bros. Is 41 kilobytes, but there is an implication that the game has to be 3D. But the team really wanted a challenge and did already want to make a game. So they did the German tradition called locking the fuck in. Weeks of effort was put on the game, with them having to write their own 3D renderer. They had to somehow animate the enemies, add lights, and don't forget the fact that this has to be a game, an interactive software. You have to be able to move around and look around without the game exploding. And then after a while, they were done with the first playable build. How I imagine they felt when they were finally able to move around. The happiness that wait, this is 120 kilobytes! So they had to compress more data, which isn't easy. Plus, the team works on this project part-time. Since demos don't really give you enough money to live, they were having to develop tools to strip the code down to the bare essentials, and use more tools they had developed in their time making demos to make it more compressed without causing the game to become a horrible, buggy mess. Plus, there were only a few weeks left. So would this be possible?
Jetzt kommen wir zum Christoph. Du bist vom Team Farbrausch.
Ja, unter anderem. Ja.
Unter anderem, aber man muss ja ganz deutlich sagen, das Team Farbrausch ist eben das Demo-Team.
Richtig.
Und das Demo-Team hatte quasi einen rein künstlerischen und freien Aspekt, also ohne jeglichen kommerziellen Hintergedanken. Und deshalb werden auch immer nur reine Demos, so wie ich das verstanden habe, bitte unterbrich mich, wenn ich was Falsches sage, programmiert und niemals Spiele, denn Spiele sind immer so quasi auf dem halben Weg schon in den Kommerz. Einfach weil Spiele mehr Leute ansprechen wahrscheinlich als eine reine Grafikdemo.
Definitiv, ja.
Und deshalb, ihr habt dann letztendlich jetzt eben die kkrieger rausgebracht, die eben hier auf der gerade genannten Breakpoint so eingeschlagen hat.
Ja.
Und wir können ruhig mal kurz auf meinen Rechner schon mal reinschalten. Da läuft nämlich gerade das Intro zu dieser Demo.
Yes. It was possible. And they won. Not only Breakpoint, but also the Deutsche Entwicklerpreis. Translated for all of the non-Germans, the German Developer Prize, which was an event held for German games until it shut down. They also appeared on a TV channel, which was very nice. But now, it's the end of the backstory. Now it's time for the actual gameplay review. Now I had to do some stuff to get this to run, but here it is. Krieger. So, the game. It starts with cool visuals, and then you load in. Why does this wall have the word dog on it? Now, from a gameplay standpoint, it is boring and buggy. Multiple times I got myself stuck in the wall geometry, and the enemies did so too. But can you really be mad at this game for not being the best? It was 96 kilobytes with music, particle effects, 3D models, animations. It was really remarkable, and even the team admits they kind of got carried away with the 96 kilobytes rather than actually making a fun game. But I did like some of the enemies design, and some of the guns were fun. Except for that one sparkle gun, it did not do anything. It was so weak. Other than show off, hey look, we did particle effects in 96 kilobytes. At the end of the game, it states to be continued, because this was actually just a small version of what was to come. See, they wanted to make this game have more levels, more weapons, and more enemies, just in 120 kilobytes. And they advertised the uncut final version coming soon. And with this small internet fame they got, it will only be a matter of time. The full version never happened. In 2011, the team disbanded. Their reasoning was that they weren't enthused with the idea of continuing it. Plus, how can you top this achievement? Making the game be a couple of kilobytes larger would not be as interesting, and the chances of making it even smaller are just like Krieger itself, small. So, it went on to become Abandonware. Krieger may not have been the best game. It's not really that entertaining, but it is still a testament to what we can accomplish with enough drive and effort. Krieger, the German word, means warrior in English, and in a way, the Farbrausch team were warriors, because they put all of their strength into this project. They managed to achieve something that may never be done again. There has been discourse of video games getting too big, which I agree with, but there is a reason that there aren't really any games anymore as small as Krieger, because 1, the devs would have probably shot themselves, and 2, there really isn't a reason to. We have large enough hard drives where it's not as large of a worry of if you can get a game to be stored on your hard drive. Except some games, I mean, like 100 gigabytes, what the hell? What are they putting in this game, bro? But in the end, it is still wonderful what a couple of people could manage to do with only one simple idea, and it will be remembered as the smallest 3D FPS game ever made. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've actually had the idea for this series for a while, and like, please give me your suggestions for other Abandonware games, because there are lots of them. Like, I had to decide which one I would choose for this first episode. It was very hard, but hopefully I can cover some more abandoned games, and yeah.